Hey, we're going here.
Hey,
This episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline is where the game starts. And hello, baseball fans. It's a Monday. That can only mean one thing. It is a Locked On MLB, Locked On Diamondbacks crossover. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. I'm not the only host. This guy right over here, he's my other host. What's his name?
Millard Thomas is my name.
And you're the host of Locked On Diamondbacks. I'm the host of Locked On MLB. We meet every Monday to talk about the state of the game and eventually argue about a couple things. Today's episode is being dropped on May 2nd, 2022. You can no longer say it's only April. And there are a couple of teams we're going to bring up that while it is early, they're showing us it's never the wrong time to have a surge because, do you know what? These games count just as much. This podcast counts just as much, especially if you want to find us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or on Instagram. Where can they find Locked On Diamondbacks?
Twitter and Instagram as well, at CreatorThomas24 for my personal account. We'll look up Locked On Diamondbacks on both Twitter and Instagram for the podcast handle.
And also, you can follow me. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We're available on all your free podcasting platforms. But be sure to tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On MLB or podcast Locked On Diamondbacks. Okay, we are recording this on Sunday, as we are wont to do. And even though we're not covering the Phillies-Mets game that's just being played as the Sunday night game, there's a lot to talk about. In fact, we're going to bring up a game that was a game involving the Mets and the Phillies, and it just happened to be the second no-hitter in the history of the New York Mets. And it took place on, on Friday night? And it was a weird one. Now, when it's first of all, let's just take a step back. The Mets throughout their history have had tremendous pitchers. Tom Seaver is one of the greatest pitchers of all time. Nolan Ryan started off as a Met. He's one of the greatest pitchers of all time. You had pitchers who are absolutely dominant, like David Cone, like Dwight Gooden, who were on the team. You had other Cy Young Award winners that include R.A. Dickey was a Cy Young Award winner. These are all people who have been, great Mets pitchers. Jacob deGrom was on the team. He was spectacular. Johan Santana on the team. He was spectacular. Mike Hampton spent that one season where he pitched them to the World Series. Unbelievable pitching. Jerry Koosman, Ron Darling, go down the line of all the great Mets pitchers. And so many of those pitchers threw no-hitters in their career. Tom Seaver threw a no-hitter. Nolan Ryan threw more no-hitters than anybody in the history of baseball. And yet the Mets did not have a no-hitter until 2012 when Johan Santana threw, and I think he's still on the mound. That's how many pitches he threw. And a lot of people point to that as being the beginning of the end of his career. His career really derailed after that start. And one of the guy who looked like he was putting together a Hall of Fame career had his career derail. Here's the thing, Millard. If there was instant replay back for Johan Santana's no-hitter, it would not have been a no-hitter. There was a ball that was called foul that the replay showed was clearly fair and would have been the first hit of the game. So Met fans always knew in the back of their head, as wonderful a moment as the Johan Santana no-hitter was, it wasn't really a no-hitter. So now they've got another one, and it's a weird multi-pitcher, lots of pitches thrown no-hitter, started by Trevor McGill.
Or Tyler? Is it Tyler McGill?
Sorry, Tyler McGill. Sorry, this is how anonymous he is. I got his damn name wrong. And I knew that sounded weird coming out of my head. So, first of all, what are your thoughts on that game by the Mets? And it was really a weird game where the Phillies actually got on base a ton, but it wasn't.
They saw a ton of pitches in the game. They saw 159 pitches, so of course they were going to get on base a ton. They were seeing a lot of pitchers in that game. I think they saw 5 or 6 pitchers overall. Yeah, 5 pitchers overall. And I don't know. How do you feel about the combined no hitter overall? Because I mean, it's a cool feat for the franchise, and I guess as a fan base, you're still happy to see the no hitter, but it doesn't feel as special of a moment when it's five guys coming in and gang banging one team versus if it's just one pitcher coming in and just complete domination by that one guy. So how do you feel overall?
I'm sorry. What verb did you just use?
Yeah, as I said it, I was
Okay.
like, I was like,
All
I
right.
don't
All
know.
right. Hey, look at.
I
Yeah,
meant to say like ganging up. I think I used the wrong
okay.
word.
Do you want? I'm filing that under. Let it slide. Yeah. Look at. I combined no hitters used to be kind of a weird, fluky thing that would happen from time to time. I remember there was a combined no hitter in 2004 when the Astros threw a combined no hitter over the against the Yankees because the pitcher who started, which I think was Roy Oswalt, had to be lifted early for an injury, and he was, and he, they went down a line of relievers. Just so happened that they none of them let up a hit. There was also a combined no hitter towards the end of, I believe it was either the 1973 or 74 season, when it was basically a tune-up for the Oakland A's. They were going into the postseason, and they wanted to give Vida Blue another start, but they knew they didn't want him to go deep because they wanted to pitch early. It was kind of everyone was getting their warm-up. It just so happened all the pitchers they used just happened to get through the game without a hit. It used to be kind of a weird, fluky thing like that. They're obviously become more prevalent now because we don't let pitchers go deep in games.
No.
Yeah, I do like the macho quality of, we come in and I went all nine and struck him out and everything like that. But I do kind of like, I like the variety of it. I like it when you have the complete game no hitter. It's their no hitter. But I also I do enjoy the fluky element of some pitcher who is a middle reliever is listed in the roster of pitchers who threw a no-hitter. That I find there's sometimes something appealing about a completely unlikely pitcher in the middle of it who is throwing a no-no. I mean, yeah, it's not. You could argue that Aaron Nola pitched a better game for the Phillies. He went 6 innings. He didn't walk a batter. Mm-hmm. He did let up 7 hits. He struck out 9 strikeouts to no walks. While the Mets had Trevor McGill, Drew Smith, Tyler McGill. I did it again. Tyler McGill, Drew Smith. Drew Smith has his name amongst major league pitchers who have thrown a no-hitter. Joely Rodriguez, Seth Lugo, and Edwin Diaz. It is who we have. It is the game that it has evolved into. Complete games are rare. And we saw that when Kershaw was throwing a perfect game a few weeks ago, which was the right decision, I do believe. And especially because Kershaw's name's already in the record book. But I like having some of these pitchers, I enjoy it. It's not as cool as macho as the complete game no-hitter, of which we saw a ton of last year. But we also saw several combined no-hitters, like the one that Corbin Burns threw.
It just doesn't feel like the level of difficulty is there when it's because now we see the bullpens in modern baseball, and there's so much an emphasis on bullpens and having guys that could come in and just throw hard. So when you're getting a guy going, your starter going 5 or 6 innings, and then every dude out the bullpen is throwing 95 to 99 miles an hour, it's a lot harder to get that one hit now if the dudes coming out the bullpen are just complete wizards with the baseball. So I do respect a little bit more the macho one man coming in, the Johan Santana. I'm going to throw 150 pitches. I'm never going to be able to pitch the rest of my career. But guess what? On my resume, you're going to see no hitter, first one in Mets history. And that's going to be the reason why he probably gets into the Hall of Fame one day.
I'll say this, though. The Philadelphia Phillies are a team that should be able to hit. And while Joely Rodriguez and Seth Lugo are talented pitchers, not that ERA is the end-all, be-all, but Joely Rodriguez's ERA after his inning he threw in the no-hitter was nearly 6. And Seth Lugo's was 4.5. I mean, it wasn't like they were bringing out Maddox, Glavine, and Smoltz 1, 2, 3 to throw a no hitter. You could have one. You could have a flare. You could get one down or drop a darn bunt. It was 3-0. It wasn't like a blowout.
Come on, we don't bunt no more, Sully. This is 2022. Who's out here laying bunts?
Yeah. How about we drop a few down? We drop a few down. Drop a few down.
Unless you're, in the extra innings with that runner on second rule, we ain't dropping bunts anymore. But you could say that's the story of the game, the lack of Philly's offense, because their offense really hasn't gotten going yet with their new additions. I think Bryce Harper's been struggling so far. Schwarber's been struggling. I think Castellanos has been really the only one in that lineup that's been decent so far. So really, I think you could say the real story of the game is not the no-hitter, but maybe it's the lack of offense that we've seen from this loaded Phillies lineup that hasn't been able to get going so far in 2022.
That's true. I think it does hit another topic, which again, this is not old man Sully. This is something that I think was a unique element to baseball, which I'm seeing fading away, which really, it makes me sad, which is the pitching matchup used to be a huge thing. Who's pitching today? Mm-hmm. What's the matchup? And when you had a dominant ace, like, the Red Sox over the years have had, whether it's been Clemens, whether it's been Pedro Martinez, whether it's been Chris Sale, you kind of wait for that game to come around. Or if you have a team where you have someone who was a bit of a coin toss, or you see like, oh, well, the Mariners stink this year, but they're starting Felix Hernandez. So it evens things out. Or the last bunch of years when DeGrom was pitching. When you have the starting pitcher only go 5 innings and then it's the same cast of characters, you lose that element of baseball where it suddenly becomes the same team playing every day. I think a unique thing in baseball is a bad team can be a good team if you have the better starting pitching matchup. Now, I'm saying this as someone who's always loved relief pitchers. I thought the relief pitcher was the most badass position in baseball, which is we're in trouble. Let's bring out the guy who brings the gas, or bring out the guy to get out of trouble. When I was a kid, it wasn't necessarily called relievers. There was nicknamed the fireman. Mm-hmm. And so Raleigh Fingers or Bill Campbell or Sparky Lyle or Dan Quisenberry were all called fight. The Rolaids Relief Award was in the shape of a fireman's helmet. And so I liked that element of it. Like, well, we're in trouble, better call in the pen, instead of everyone has their structured roles. Just another reason to hate Tony La Russa, that he created the structured bullpen in the 80s, which meant that Dennis Eckersley was always going to throw the 9th, Rick Honeycutt was always going to throw the 8th, Gene Nelson was always going to throw the 7th, and there you go. But that also required you have a starting pitcher go 6 or 7 innings as well, so you don't blow out the pen. Now we have, I do miss that. And you're even seeing that in the postseason, that it's not like, you're waiting for this matchup to take place. Well, the matchup really only counts for the first 5 innings, which is why I'm all in favor of, instead of a starting pitcher, I think I've said this to you, we have the headline pitcher. Mm-hmm. We have the pitcher coming through the final 5 innings, especially with with the DH in both leagues. If you have a kick-ass pitcher who comes in, you try to get those runs early, because then they're going to bring in the guy who throws the final 5. I don't know. I miss that unique quality where the starting pitcher dictates the flow of the game.
I still think once we get to the highest level of the postseason and the World Series, I still think you need those frontline starters, because even though we're seeing baseball move more into the have your starter go 4 or 5 innings and hand it off to the bullpen, we haven't really seen that motto really work to the highest level just yet. Tampa Bay is kind of like the team that's on the forefront of that. And even though they're a World Series contender every year and they've been to the World Series, we haven't actually seen them get over the hump. When you still look at the past World Series champions, from the Braves to the Astros to the Red Sox to the Dodgers, they still have those frontline starters that they expect to go out there and pitch 7 innings. Like the Braves are trusting Charlie Morton and Max Fried to go out there and go 7, 8 innings last season. The Astros always with Lance McCullers and the Garrett Coles and the Verlanders. They need those guys to go deep into ball games. The Red Sox, they needed Chris Sale to go deep into ball games and come out the bullpen. So I think for a lot of these teams that do win at the highest level, you still need an elite ace or maybe 2 aces that you can trust in those big games. Once you get to the postseason, can they go 7 innings and go 1 earned run, and then the bullpen only has to go 2 innings? Because I don't know if the Rays method of trying to go the analytics and we just need you to go 5 and then you hand it off to the bullpen, I think it's a lot of walking the tightrope when you try to go with the Rays model, and I'd rather just have an ace that I could give the ball to and hopefully pitches me a complete game shutout.
Well, again, going back to that 2020 World Series where they had Nate Snell pitching a masterpiece, and then it was like 2 outs in the sixth, and they lift him for Anderson, who had thrown like like the last 2 weeks every single day, and he was gassed. And I remember I sent out a tweet the minute they took Snell out. I said, "Congratulations to the Los Angeles Dodgers for winning the World Series," because everybody knew what was going to happen next. So I understand. Not this is especially like this early in the season. Like we didn't have a full spring training. We all know that, and so that's one of the reasons why Kershaw didn't go beyond the seventh inning. And I have no problem with the Mets. I mean, McGill threw 88 pitches in 5 innings. Now, he wasn't going to throw a complete game. And the fact of the matter is, the Mets got the no-hitter, but the more important thing is they beat a division rival. And they're continuing to put their stake in the ground that, yes, indeed, this is their division. It's their division to lose. And, with that in mind, just sort of, for the lack of a better term, it sort of makes knowing that the Mets have a rotation where, Carrasco, he got shelled his last start, but he pitched really well recently. Scherzer is Max Scherzer. Bassett's been terrific. I mean, the entire depth they have on the team, something like this can make the Mets just a surefire bet to get to the postseason this year. And if you like betting, go to betonline.net. It's your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's NBA playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs, and the start of the Major League Baseball season. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information. From live betting to playoffs, esports, and more, head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline is where the game starts. And hey, thanks so much for making Locked On MLB your first listen, or maybe Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen. Make the other one your second listen. Come on, we're both good. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast, recaps of Major League Baseball games with analysis from our local experts, taking fans through the season like no other network, free and available from wherever you get your podcasts. We're here doing the Locked On MLB, Locked On Diamondbacks crossover episode. I'm Sully. That's Millard. This is how it works. Hey, it's May 2nd that this episode is being dropped. It's early in the season, but let me say something, Millard. It's never the wrong time to win 7, 8, 9 games in a row. Wherever you are, if you have a 7, 8 game stretch where you win all the games, it's never the wrong time to do that. And there are a couple of teams who have done that recently who have, some have answered some critics. Some have inserted themselves into the pennant race, albeit outrageously early. But if you're going to be a surprise team to play better than people expecting or contend when people don't expect you to contend, getting out to a fast start makes your life a lot easier than trying to play catch up, because it may give your team that sense of, hey, maybe this is our year early in the season instead of digging yourself into a hole. I think you know some of the teams I'm referring to here.
Yes, I do. I think the team that's maybe, I don't know, caught my eye the most, maybe the most, because this is a team that we've talked about a lot on this podcast, and the LA Angels are a team that's started really hot so far to start the Major League Baseball season 2022. And it's really not their pitching. We discussed last week about how they haven't had enough starting pitching for that rotation, and how it's always been the biggest weakness of that team. And I kind of contended that if this team maybe wants to make the postseason, it's going to have to be through their offense. And that's what's been happening during this winning streak right now, because their offense has been phenomenal. We all know about Mike Trout. He's been phenomenal so far to start the season. He looks back to being arguably the best player in baseball. And Ohtani really hasn't even gotten going yet. But the man who's really been hot in that Angels lineup, who's actually been even better than Mike Trout so far this season, if you look at the statistics, is Taylor Ward of the Angels. I mean, he's got double-digit runs, RBIs. He got as many home runs as Mike Trout. He's batting nearly 400 on the season. He's got OPS like near 1,300. So far for that Angels team, him and Mike Trout have been phenomenal. You got Jared Walsh doing work as well. Ohtani still putting in work with the power as well. So that Angels lineup is really dynamic. I've even talked about Anthony Rendon. Hopefully he can heat up too, too. So you look up and down that Angels lineup, it's deep. It's going to be able to score runs. That division right now, the AL West, the Mariners, they've been pretty good so far this season, but they haven't been great. The Astros have kind of been scuffling here over the last couple of weeks as well. So right now, the Angels, it's still early in the season, but they have a nice little lead so far in that division, and they have enough talent to maybe make the postseason, maybe make a wild card. But I think they're definitely going to be a team that has to be buyers at that deadline and figure out another way to get some more arms in that rotation.
Well, look at it, and there's a couple players like, every year there's someone who pops up that you're like, wow, I didn't even think they'd be a factor. Michael Lorenzen, this is his 8th year in the bigs. He has been a relief pitcher for the Cincinnati Reds the last few years. Adequate relief pitcher. Yeah. He has been fantastic in the Angels rotation. He pitched a great game his last start. On Sunday, he pitched into the 9th. Talk about, giving them some length. And he has been tremendous. And also Patrick Sandoval has made 3 starts. He hasn't let up a run yet. He has struck out 20 batters in 15 innings so far. Detmers has had some good starts, some bad starts. Same with Syndergaard. Ohtani had to leave the game for an injury, but it doesn't look like it's that serious, at least that far. And Mike Trout got on base 5 times on Sunday, including a home run and a double. And, if you're going to turn things around, one of the things that I really felt, if this team stumbled out of the gate and there was a sense of, oh, are you kidding me? It's going to be another year where Trout has a great year and it doesn't really matter. Instead, they've come out of the gate blasting. Brandon Marsh has gotten some big hits for him. Jared Walsh has got some big hits for them. Rendon is not heated up for him. If he starts to heat up, Joe Adell has made some great plays for them out there. And as you mentioned, Ward if Adell starts hitting, then the outfield of Adell, Trout, and Ward might be one of the best in the game. And, again, this could be a fast start and they could come falling back down to earth. But, the Mariners did not have a good weekend against Miami because the Mariners jumped off to a terrific start, but now they're now at 12-10. The Astros have been scuffling. The A's have been, the A's have lost a couple of games to Cleveland, and the Rangers are a mess. For the Angels to come up, it's important for them to take advantage of this because at least now, as they're up by a few games, these are games they don't have to make up later. Another team along those same lines of taking advantage. Sometimes you have to take advantage of people slumping within the division. Now, I did pick the Minnesota Twins to go to the playoffs this year. I picked them to be one of the wild card teams.
You did.
I liked the Twins. I thought the Twins had a down year after having several very good years. Right now, everybody in the Central, including the White Sox, have just stumbled, and except for Minnesota. And Carlos Correa's got some big hits, and they've taken advantage of some stupid Detroit defense in some of the games that they had against the Twins, against Detroit. I do want to make one plea to both the Minnesota Twins and to the Toronto Blue Jays. Powder blue uniforms are road uniforms.
Wow.
Sometimes when this is no small thing, especially if you go to a restaurant or a bar and they have the TV up there and you're trying to figure out the highlight. The color of the uniform isn't just aesthetics. It's you see who's the home team, who's the visiting team. Someone sent me a clip of a game between the Celtics and the Nets. It took place in Boston, and the team wearing the black uniform got a key shot against a team wearing a white uniform, and I assumed it was the Nets beating the Celtics, but it turned out the Celtics were wearing black at home, and the Nets were wearing white on the road. Folks, don't do this to me.
Man,
don't do this to me.
Sully's getting confused out here, y'all.
I'm nearly 50. You can't confuse me. You could confuse me very easily. So if you powder blues road, okay? Road. I'm like, why are they walking off? They're the road team. No, wait, they're the home team wearing powder blue. Stop it. Just stop it.
And powder blues are probably the most popular jersey in sports. I know everyone loves the San Diego Chargers, or I guess LA Chargers powder blue uniform. So and the Royals have pretty nice road
road.
And love the Royals blue, right? Gotta love those
road.
Yes, all right.
On the road.
Road, all right.
But Minnesota has jumped out to that fast lead, and I think they are a talented team. So much my voice just broke.
Bland home jerseys, blue road jerseys. We got it. But yeah, the Twins, I'm not exactly sure how they've started this season so hot because you look up and down their lineup. Everyone basically outside Byron Buxton has like an OPS below 700. We know
Yeah.
Carlos Correa hasn't done anything. It's literally Byron Buxton and just me, you, and a couple other lockdown hosts out there with him because he's doing it all in that lineup.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
look at that rotation. It's like a bunch of guys from yesteryear with Chris Archer.
But they're pitching great.
Yeah, they're pitching great. That's the thing. It's like, how are they doing this? It's like you put them in the time machine. It was like hot tub time machine. They came back and it was like 2012 all over again. Dylan Bundy's a top prospect and he's actually pitching like it. Chris Archer's pitching like it too. Then you got the Joe Ryan. Yeah, he's come back and he's come out of nowhere and he looks phenomenal. The bullpen has been shut down. So they're pitching. I mean, I feel like it has to regress to the mean eventually because I can't see a playoff team with Dylan Bundy and Chris Archer as their two frontline starters with the Joe Ryan. I can't believe it, Sully. I can't see Dylan Bundy as an ace of a team. So I can't believe the Twins are as good as they are right now.
I don't think the White Sox are as bad as they are right now. But that being said, they're a team. The Minnesota Twins are taking advantage. That could be a division where the entire division is like 10-10 at this point. And instead, they say, "Well, let's take advantage of this. Let's give ourselves a little lead, and have the other teams play catch up with us." The division everyone thought was going to be the superstar division. So far, they've had three of the best teams in the American League play there. Is the American League East. And the New York Yankees are in the middle of a 9-game winning streak. Stacey Gotsulias is so thrilled. She actually did a positive Locked On Now about the Yankees. Cole's pitching great. Nestor Cortes has been an all-star. Someone named Michael King has been unbelievable out of the bullpen for them. Chapman has yet to let up an earned run. I mean, they're both the Yankees bullpen has been mind-boggling. And while some of their starting hitters have been slumping, Judge has been heating up and has got some huge hits recently. And the reacquisition of Anthony Rizzo was the move of the year for the Yankees. They got a lot of crap in this offseason, including for me, for not going after one of the star shortstops. I never minded that they didn't go after Freddie Freeman because they went after Rizzo, and Rizzo was a perfect fit for them last year. He's come right back. He's fit in perfectly with the team. I know we're not supposed to look at runs batted in, but he already has 21. And his OPS, even though he doesn't have the high batting average, he has a high OPS over 1,000. He already has 9 homers, and he plays amazing defense at first base. The Rizzo and Judge are the 2 MVPs of this team so far, and they're getting a quality year out of Aaron Hicks in center field. So even though they're getting nothing from Joey Gallo and slumping Josh Donaldson and Gleyber Torres, it looks a little bit lost, and Kyle Higgy, I can't remember their catcher.
Don't even try. Yeah.
And DJ LeMahieu is hitting better now. So look at all the calls to fire Boone, fire Cashman, all that stuff. They're the best record in baseball right now. They're going up. They're going to be playing the Toronto Blue Jays. Or at least the vaccinated players are going up to Toronto. So we're going to see what's going to happen there. But give credit to the Yankees. It's never the wrong time to win 9 in a row.
Yeah, and before the season in our preseason pods, I said they were going to miss the postseason. I was talking more in my heart than my head just because I hate the Yankees. I didn't want them to make the postseason. I probably would have picked them if I went with my head, and so far they've looked really good so far this season. They're kind of Minnesota Twins-esque because that offense, you look up and down their lineup once again, it's just basically Judge and Rizzo, and I'm still one that cares about the traditional stats. I still care about batting average and RBIs and those fun stats, so that the fact that Rizzo's still balling in those areas, he's been a godsend so far for the Yankees. We saw that game, I think, last week where he had like 2 or 3 home runs in just one game. He's been great for them so far this season. Defensively, like you said, he's been one of the most underrated defensive players in baseball. He's been a stud at that area. And quietly, the bullpen has been the story of the Yankees, not just this season, but maybe the last, 5 to 7 years of this franchise. Like the bullpen has been their strength for a while now. It's been hitting home runs and then getting these starters to go 5 innings and get to the bullpen because they've usually had really good arms in the bullpen. And like you said, Chapman, the Clay Holmes, the Michael Kings, it's been dominant. Jameson Taillon's been fine in the rotation. So has Jordan Montgomery. And I think someone like Giancarlo Stanton, I think he's been kind of slow offensively to start the year, but he's someone that's still hitting the ball really hard. He seems to be still keying in on his pitches. So I think he's someone that's going to heat up as we enter the summer months, as the weather outside starts to get warmer. I would watch out for Giancarlo Stanton because I think he's going to go on a run here. Maybe in May, maybe in June. I think he's going to go on a tear where he rips off like 10 home runs in like 25 days, something crazy like that. So I would watch out for this Yankees team. As hot as they've been, I think they could get to another level as this offense starts to click as we enter the summer months.
I don't regret my pick that I said they were going to miss the playoffs. First of all, because it's only May, but also because my reasoning, I think, was sound. And I said if they pitched well, I said they could win the division. But I did not trust their pitching. I didn't trust their starting pitching. And I thought that would eventually bite them. Now, as it stands right now, I didn't expect Nestor Cortez to pitch like an all-star. And I didn't expect King to be a dominant force in the bullpen. And so I give them credit where credit is due. I mean, I said all throughout the offseason they could win the division or they could miss the playoffs. And a lot of things have to break right. And in the first month of the season, a lot of things, some things have broken horribly wrong, but their pitching staff has made up for it. And as Stacey said in one of her episodes, they're winning games this year that they would have lost last year. They lost a lot of dumb games last year, which cost them home field advantage in the division series, in the wildcard game. But also they lost games to Baltimore last year. They wound up having a winning record against Baltimore, but it was really tight, and they lost a couple of key series to Baltimore, and they haven't been doing that. And so the fact that and Garrett Cole is back to being Garrett Cole again. So these are things that were question marks that are now exclamation points for the Yankees. And so now look at I still think Toronto is the most talented team in the division.
No doubt.
I got Toronto. In fact, that was Yankee headquarters calling me up right now saying, I can't believe you're praising us. But look at you can't put them down. They have the best record in baseball right now. Yeah, I think Toronto is the better team overall, but I think right now the Yankees are playing unbelievably well.
Yeah, I would like to recant my statement that I said they were going to make the postseason from the preseason. I would like to say Sully Baseball peer pressured me into that statement because we both grew up Red Sox fans. I feel like I was pressured by Red Sox Nation, so it wasn't really my head talking. It was more my heart. But I will stand firm on my stance that the Yankees won't win the World Series. I think they'll be a postseason team, but I don't think they're sniffing a World Series ring this year. I still don't think they got the rotation for that or the arms for that.
I said the Red Sox weren't making the playoffs either.
Oh, I said they were going to the World Series. Yikes!
I said the Red Sox were not making the playoffs because I don't trust their pitching staff. And you know what? Ironically, it wasn't their pitching staff that blew this series they had to Baltimore. It was their bats. So, yeah. And right now, the Red Sox bats need a boost. And the best boost that I can think of right now is to get them a Built Bar. Now, look at everyone. Summer is coming. And with summer, you're going to need some food on the go because we're all mobile. Built Bars are the perfect snack to take with you on family vacations, trips to the ballpark. Just throw some in your desk when you're working at home. If you're on the run from the law, get yourself a Built Bar. Throw them in the bags, put them in the kid's backpack. Make sure everyone has a bar. Best part about Built Bars, they're healthy. They're delicious. No more sacrificing delicious food for health. With Built Bar, you can have both. It's easy, and all you have to do is go to Built.com and order now. All Built Bars and Puffs are covered in 100% real chocolate. That means with Built Bar, you can eat healthy and enjoy yourself when you're doing it. You have the Built Bar Puffs. They're fantastic. They come in flavors like banana cream pie, even churro. Who doesn't want a protein bar that tastes like a churro? I know I do. And there's only 140 calories per puff. Sign me up. If that's not enough for you, what's the matter with you? Guess what? You might want to try a mix box. The mix box comes with 12 flavors of bars and puffs. Built Bar makes sure there's something for everybody. My favorite flavor is raspberry. Yours, I think, is cookies and cream, right?
Yes, cookies and cream. I love it. Anything Oreo based, I'm in love.
Oh man, I love the tanginess of the raspberry with the chocolate, but the cookies and cream is great. So are the mint chocolate brownie, the cherry barcia. They're all fantastic. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar, which is a candy bar. Go to Built.com, Get all your favorites: banana cream pie, raspberry, double chocolate, so many more. They're all delicious. And with new flavors coming all the time, check them out at Built.com. Go to Built.com. Use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. Use the promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. I want to bring up two other things that happened over the weekend. First of all, the Miami Marlins lost on Sunday, but that was the end of a 7-game winning streak. And like I said, if you're a team that's kind of on the bubble, it's better for yourself psychologically to get off to the fast start. And I've been saying all off season that the Marlins have the pitching to be a contender. They just need the bats. Well, they went on a run against some good teams, including Seattle. They weren't just playing chumps. Alcantara's pitching great. Pablo Lopez is pitching like a Cy Young contender. Their bullpen can't be touched, although Anthony Bender's had a couple of bad games. But Bass, by the way, Anthony Bass, relief pitcher for the Marlins. Please, Angels, sign him. We need more fish names on the Angels. But that's neither here nor there. Cody,
what about fish names on the Marlins?
Well, that's probably true, but this may be confusing. Hey, yeah, but Bass, he's a Marlin. No, he's not. He's a Bass. But like they're not getting hitting from Rojas. They're not getting hitting from Avisail Garcia. They're getting most of their hitting from Chaz Chisholm and a little bit from Joey Wendell. And while Jorge Soler's numbers are way down, he's hit a couple of massive bombs. Garrett Cooper's not been much of anything. They've been winning with the pitching, but they've been winning. And I think that's great.
Yeah, Jazz Chisholm has basically done his best Byron Buxton impersonation for the Miami Marlins because he's carried that team offensively. And guess what? You know what team Jazz Chisholm used to play for? You know who drafted him? The Arizona Diamondbacks. And guess what? Starting tomorrow, we got a matchup, D-backs versus the Miami Marlins. And you know who's on the mound? We talked about earlier in the segment or on the podcast, Sully, big-time matchups between aces and starting pitchers. Well, the D-backs got their ace on the mound tomorrow, Zach Gallen versus Pablo Lopez, and Pablo Lopez has been a stud so far this season for the Marlins.
He has been.
Yeah, he leads all of Major League Baseball in ERA, .39. He's got like 23 strikeouts and 23 innings, 4 walks allowed. He's been insane this season. Their whole rotation has been insane. What's his name? Sandy Alcantara has been really good for that team.
Yeah.
Jesus Luzardo, who they acquired in that Starling Marte deal. First of all, don't even get me started on that because the D-backs traded Starling Marte for freaking Caleb Smith, who is up and down between the major leagues and the minor leagues. Meanwhile, the Marlins, when they trade Starling Marte and use him for 2 months, they get back Jesus Luzardo, who looks like a legit starting rotation guy. Why can't the D-backs pull off a move like that? But that's a rant for another day. Trevor Rogers, he was an all-star last year as a rookie. He's currently their 4th starter in their rotation. He hasn't even gotten going yet. So wait till he gets going. That offense hasn't gotten going. Like you said, Avisail Garcia, I had to drop him off a fantasy team because he's been so bad to start the year. Most of their offense hasn't done anything, but Jesus Sanchez, Jazz Chisholm, they basically carried that offense so far. The pitching has been dominant, and you've been right on this team, Sully. You've been early on this team, and we'll see what they could do. They're coming off this hot winning streak. I still think they need to get some bats in this lineup and probably need to be buyers at the deadline if they want to really contend this season.
And they may have to pick the carcass of the minor league team that plays in Cincinnati, who has only 3 more wins than you and I have at this point.
Wow. I mean, and their offense is basically on par with the D-backs, though. So hopefully the D-backs offense could get better.
Hey, I was at the dog park the other day. I had my dog Eleanor with me, and I had my earbuds in. I was listening to a ball game, and it was an absolutely riveting ball game and everything I love about baseball. And the 2 teams playing were the Arizona Diamondbacks and the St. Louis Cardinals. Okay. I was listening to Merrill Kelly go up against Miles Mikolas. And is that how you pronounce his name? Mikolas? I think so. Greek name. And it was everything I love about 2 pitchers pitching effectively, that every hit or run was precious. So the pace of the game was great. The defense on both sides was terrific. The pitching staff on both sides were terrific. Kelly wound up throwing 7 scoreless innings and allowing only 2 hits. Michaelis matched him through 7 before letting up a pair of solo home runs, one by Marte. I don't remember who the other one off the top of my head. Nick Ahmed, that's right. And Nick Ahmed made a great play defensively in that game. And I'm sitting there watching my dog run around the dog park, transfixed by the Diamondbacks versus the Cardinals. And I'm thinking, this is what I love. When you and I were talking early about the pitching matchups, these were two pitchers locking antlers, and it created a, how do I say it, a personality to the game, which is unique to baseball. We just saw an NBA playoffs. So look at, I'm not a huge NBA fan, but I enjoy. They're my second. It's my second favorite sport. I don't follow it nearly as much as I used to, but I can't help but I get caught up in the playoffs because it's amazing. I used to follow basketball. There's a period of my life I followed basketball almost as closely as I followed baseball. But when you get older, and I'm approaching the big five bagel, you either say, I'm just going to follow every sport casually, or you pick your one sport that you stick to. So I think you figured out which sport I picked.
Yeah.
But I do love the NBA playoffs. But here's the thing. You have that first round and all the play-in games and everything like that. But you have a best of 7 first round of the NBA playoffs. And it's almost impossible to get an upset because it's the same matchup game after game after game. It's the same team. So if you're better, it's not like you could throw – when I think about teams that have upset other teams, there's been a situation where a dominant pitcher won a huge game. The biggest upset I ever saw in my life was in 1988 when the Dodgers upset both two teams that won over 100 games, the Mets and the A's, and they were led by Hershiser. And so they knew every game that Hershiser pitched, they had the way upper hand. But in basketball, it's the same team. So lo and behold, what's the next round? 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeds on the East, 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeds in the West. And it feels like, okay, and now the real playoffs begin because we got rid of all those other teams. And so now let's trim the fat and have the 4 best teams or the 8 best teams remaining. And with baseball, you can have an upset become more prevalent because a team's pitching staff, it might be the worst matchup for them. When Kansas City beat the A's, the Angels, the Orioles, and nearly beat the Giants in the 2014 postseason, it's because their bullpen was unstoppable. And all they had to do was steal their way, get a lead by the 7th, and that game was over. Meanwhile, there have been some years where a starting pitching staff was so deep that there was no way you can stop them. And so you can't have that in other sports. The closest you could have that is in hockey if you have a team that has a dominant goalie can stop a team. But having that variety of pitchers in a rotation was unique to baseball, and it's something I don't want to lose if everything turns into a bullpen game. So I guess this has been my TED Talk.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't know where you were going with it. Mostly.
No, but I mean, I
think I followed along as we got.
Well, I was saying that game between the Diamondbacks and the Cardinals. I have never been to St. Louis. I've been to Phoenix once. I didn't really have a dog in the fight, except I like my friend Millard Thomas to be happy. So I guess I was rooting for Arizona in that situation.
Sorry,
but
Lucas.
I was riveted by that game, and part of it was because the way the two pitchers were putting their personality, putting their stamp on that game. And I don't want to lose that baseball. Don't fight what you are and try to make yourself like other sports.
Yeah, I don't want to see that. I mean, I like it. I want to see, if we're going to have a pitcher's duel, I want it to be between the two starters going deep in the game. I don't want the pitcher's duel to be the two starters going 4 innings, and then now it's the bullpens duking it out. Like, that's not as fun. And it's also the pace of the game. Like, I don't want to see bullpen guys. Like, we changed the rules, somewhat to where now the bullpen guys to face 3 batters or whatever. But I still don't want to see the constant of the manager coming out there and got to go to the bullpen. It's just a lot of downtime when that happens. So one of the great things about the D-backs this season, if you like watching their games like I do, the pace of play for these D-backs games have been very good so far this season because their pitching has been so dominant and their offense has been so bad. It produces a lot of quick innings for these D-backs games. So if you want to watch a game, just go 3 hours basically flat every game. The D-backs are the perfect team for you because it literally feels like these games fly by. And I feel like the prep takes me a lot longer most of the time than the actual gameplay that goes on. So for the D-backs so far this season, it's been really fun for the pace of play. And specifically in that matchup with Merrill Kelly versus St. Louis Cardinals, it was a fun matchup because both of those two starters were guys who had pretty much an unconventional path to the major leagues. Both of them started elsewhere overseas and then basically made it to the major leagues later in their career. So it was kind of special for both of them because Merrill Kelly signed as like a 28-year-old over from the Korean League. And then the St. Louis Cardinals guy, I'm not sure where he signed from, but both of these guys were dudes that started with unconventional paths and had to work their way into Major League Baseball. And I think Merrill Kelly actually said, or might have been reversed, I don't remember, but one of them used the other guy as the model to actually getting into Major League Baseball. I don't remember who came first. So it was actually fun to see those two guys match up against each other. Both of them went 7 innings, and both of them had a phenomenal start. But like you said, the guy for the Cardinals just ended up giving up 2 solo shots by the clutch D-backs hitters, and the D-backs ended up winning that game.
Yeah, and it's it is something that I love about when you get late spring, early summer, and I know I'm a little bit of a unicorn as a baseball fan because most people are just fans of their team, and I'm someone who enjoys watching. I enjoy following the entire sport, and I love their days like I had sitting there at the dog park, going, "Hey, I'm going to follow this game right now," and you get totally hooked on it. And the great thing about baseball, by the way, it's a Michaelis. That's how you pronounce it, Miles Michaelis.
Okay. Were you Googling that pronunciation?
Yeah, I quickly Googled it. Yeah, he bounced around and had that one great year in 2018. But anyway, I love that when you get hooked on a game that you did not expect to get hooked onto. But here you are. You wind up loving it, wind up watching it. And hopefully some of you get hooked on our podcasts that we do, that you and I do all week. And we do our crossover every Monday. Hey, Millard, where can people follow your show?
At Creator Thomas 24 for my personal account. If you want to just follow me on Twitter or look up Locked On Diamondbacks on both Twitter and Instagram for the podcast handle. And I always got to say, because I don't say it enough, follow us on YouTube at Locked On Diamondbacks.
Yep. And you can follow our show at Locked On MLB Pod. Same handle for Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. It's early, but it's not that early, and it's never the wrong time to win. It's never the right time to lose. It is another Locked On. I'm going to leave you hanging there. Another Locked On crossover on Monday with Millard Thomas. I'm your pal Sully. Let's fist pump. Another Monday. Another Monday. Boom. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.